I welcome you all to this webinar today. It's a short webinar which should give you an overview on how to fill, change, and sign ISTA eCertificates using an online tool via API solution. We have Barbara Krinsky here from my side. She will talk a little later. First, would like to inform you all, because most of you may not have been at the ordinary general meeting last Thursday, July 4, where the designated voting members decided to go online with the e-certificates finally on July 15, which is Monday next week. A few of you may have participated in the testing phase on manually filling or filling certificates by Excel solution, and also change and sign them. And we would require for all who would like to participate in this system to check and train themselves before with the training system provided. And this is also true for the API solution. And the membership also fixed a price for the e-certificates based on the fact that you will theoretically save funds because in the API and the e-certificate solution, you will have no duplicates anymore, no provisional certificates, and you should be able to avoid misprints as well if the certificates are fed properly. So the costs are fixed at 10 Swiss francs per e-certificate. These e-certificates will be sent to you directly to an email address you provide, and you can provide them directly via email or via your laboratory management system clients hub to your clients. That means there are no shipping costs, and also no shipping costs anymore for your clients, because if they have to ship consignments to another continent, they would have to ship also the ISTA certificates, and maybe first the provisionals and afterwards the originals. Provisionals are also not required anymore, or they are there, but if they are changed to an original, they will be automatically be available as original directly at the time when you sign it as an original certificate. So the access code will be the same. Now, the API solution is something which may need investment from the laboratories side, and which needs investment from the side of our provider. That's why we have Barbara Krinsky here from my side, who are our provider for the certificates, and she will talk to you a little bit into the recommendations. And we will also only allow you inside the API solution if you tested that it works properly. So there's a testing possibility for the API solution available as well. Now I may hand over to Barbara to tell you a little bit more. Barbara, do you need the screen to be shared?
Yes, it makes sense, and I would like to demonstrate some of the functionality live. But I'm just not that familiar with the...
I make you the presenter.
Tool. Okay.
You should have the possibility now to present. Thank you.
Okay, so just let me know whether you see my screen or not, because I can't see myself what I'm sharing.
No, you cannot see yourself anymore, but we can see your screen.
Okay,
and maybe I remind all participants as well, if you have questions, there's a question and answer box on your tool for the webinar, and you can put your questions in there. If you cannot answer the questions today, you will get the answers a little later. But there's also now on the ISTA website a Q&A section, which may help you and may have some answers for you which are in there. If they're in there, I will mark that you should look at the question and answer section. Barbara, thank you.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. Yes, you might already be familiar with the basic functionality of the eCertificate cockpit, where you can log in with your lab data and you get the overview about your eCertificates, the orange ones and the blue ones. And what I'm going to show you is how you can create and alter certificates via the API and also sign the certificates via the API. So just let me share you some basic information. There's two REST endpoints. One is for creating or updating eCertificates, and one is just for signing eCertificates. All the configuration in the background that is still the same as for labs that would manually create or edit eCertificates or via Excel. So if you provide an email address to Stella, each signed certificate will be automatically mailed to your email address. You can choose whether it's a PDF or is a zip attachment. The possibility to choose here is because there are many restrictions of receiving zip attachments depending on your email server. But just what I said, two REST endpoints, the connection is secured via HTTPS, and each laboratory has an individual API token, which will be generated by my side. The format of the data that you send to the API is JSON, that's API standard. And the scheme of the JSON is just basically one-to-one mapping to the eCertificate fields, corresponding to the orange ones or the blue ones. And it's just it has one additional field, which is the external ID. The external ID is probably the primary key you use in your database for the certificate. So that makes it sure that we can identify which eCertificate you're creating or trying to sign, because we have internal IDs as well. And so that is makes sure we can map the correct eCertificates. For each request you send via the API, you will get a response with several error states or success messages. There is a list available in the documentation which error state means what, or you get a success message where you can see everything has worked, everything is fine. If you would like to test the application or the API, you can use an application like Postman, but not in the web version. It has to be the standalone version, but that's not meant to be used in a productive way, because usually if you would use the API, you would like send maybe hundreds of certificates a day or in a moment. So the Postman is really just thought for testing reasons. And it's important to know, as Andreas already said in the beginning, you need to build an individual solution from depending on your individual IT systems you have to address the API. We just provide the REST endpoints, and you need to build something out of your database or whatever system you're using to address the API. So there's surely some investment you need to take, and you need to involve your IT specialists as well. Yes, as I already said, each signed certificate will automatically be mailed to you if you provide the email address. And what is special here, if you sign several eCertificates at a time, so bulk signing, the certificates will also be sent in bulk emails. We split them depending on their size. So if you like sign 100 certificates at once, which might exceed the possibility of receiving emails in your email client, we split them into several packages, so to make sure you really receive the PDFs. But you can also download them from as usual, from your cockpit by just selecting them after status or searching for a test number or whatever, and download them manually here. That's up to you if you would like to use both ways, or if you just rely on having them mailed to you. One question that always is popping up is whether original signed certificates can be altered or even deleted. That is not possible. So a certificate once signed in an original signed state cannot be deleted or altered in any way. They are stored in an external storage system in the property of ISTA on FTP server, and it's also double stored in a MySun database and in our redundancy system. So it's really provided that none of the PDFs can in some way be lost. There's always a double backup system. And as Andreas also said, if you're interested, we just first set up your API in the test system, and only if you have gone to the testing system and proved it, you will be admitted to the live system. And yes, one maybe thing about altering certificates, just make sure if you're not quite sure, is there anything correct, or might there be an error in my certificate, just keep them in any provisional state. Provisional states, also provisional signed, can be altered, but not the original signed. That's really important, because otherwise you lose 10 francs if you have some error that you detect just after signing it. What I would like to do is just to make a live demonstration how the API works. I have prepared some certificates, and you can see here, I just closed that window, it's in the way, sorry. So I'm logged in as a laboratory. I just set up a test laboratory. It will be deleted afterwards, and that's the cockpit view. I can see anything I've already created or have done. Just try to make my window a little bit smaller. So that's all the certificates I have, any states I have. And I would like to create new certificates. And I'll show you the Postman surface, how that looks like. So I just have here the JSON format of the orange certificate. You see that here's the external ID, the state field, the type, whether it's an orange or a blue one, and then it's all the content section is below. I just don't go through every single field, you already know them, and there's also documentation available about the whole scheme. And here I have a second one, that's a blue, so you can just add as many certificates you would like in one request. And if I'm using the test Postman, I just click on send. And below I get the, just make it a little bit smaller, sorry. I get the result. You see overall messages okay. No failed fields. Success true as well down here. If I would enter any data in a field that is not allowed in that field, it would tell me here there's something not okay in that and that corresponding field. So you really know where there is an error. And if I go back to, I just make a new one probably because I did those yesterday. So make a new one. And if I go back to the overview, make a reload, I will see the latest down here. That's the original one I just created, and as well down here in the blue certificate section, I can see them here. And if I would like to sign the certificate, that's the most easiest call. I just have that kind of scheme. I enter the external ID from the e-certificate I would like to sign and my individual signature code. So I created a new one with the external ID 317, and I just send it here. And signing certificates takes a little bit longer than creating or altering certificates because they have because we have to map first the state of the certificate, we have to map the external ID. So that might take a couple of seconds. If you're signing 15 or 100 at a time, it might take 2 or 3 minutes. That's normal. So I have here a signed certificate in the new state provisional. You should see that in the cockpit. You can make a reload here. No, that's the wrong one. That was the orange one, sorry. No, okay, that's strange. It's on the second page. And I can open it here, have a look at it in the front-end view, and close it again. So that's basically how it works. You have the API solution, and you can always check in your cockpit overview. And you have specific success or error messages that are returned to each request. And a given scheme that maps to the certificate, whether it's an orange one or a blue one. They're kindly slightly different because the blue one has not as many fields as the orange one. But basically, it's about the same process as using the Excel file or a manual creating. You have to fill in all the required fields. There are allowed values and not allowed values. And you just send them via API call to the system. So that was really a short walkthrough. I'll just maybe stop sharing my screen, and if there are questions right now, you just can ask me. Maybe one last word, depending the formatting of the fields. There has been many questions about whether there are possibilities to format text field in like here, like in the additional observations, or maybe here. And there's really no possibility of an individual format, like setting text bold or italic. What you can do via the API is you can have line breaks. So you can kind of format your text a little bit, but there's no possibility of individually formatting fields or content of a field. Okay, so maybe Andreas can help me stop sharing my screen. And if there are questions, I'm open to any questions you might have. Yeah, there's a detailed documentation available about the whole API system, about the formats, about the scheme, about allowed values, about how many characters are allowed per field.
Okay, that should be off now. Now I have a number of questions which I try to answer. I started is a documentation on the API. First of all of the webinars today in the morning and the afternoon session will be available on the ISTA YouTube channel. You can have a look there again. If you want to get news from there as well, please subscribe to the channel. Another question came up, or two came up actually. Is the documentation on APIs and the REST endpoints and our Labs API token now available on the ISTA website once logged in? The clear answer is, as we mentioned before, you should take part in the regular testing of the eCertificates, and then there's also a special testing for the API solution. So we want to avoid that you fill certificates which you don't want to fill and which would cost you money. You can send the information which you can find on the Q&A section to Stella, and Stella will take care to organize that you can participate. Are there future plans to support Markdown on basic HTML text for italics? You see the clear answer from Barbara. We don't have that possibility in the moment.
Yes,
it's particularly useful for Latin name species. Yes, it is agreed by the accreditation department that this can be a normal text. Also, there's no bold available in the moment, so we might have and might take it up at a certain time, but it's not available in the moment.
Yes, there's one reason behind that, besides some technical issues. We have to make sure that all the content you send via API really maps into the field. And that's quite tricky. If you have like a bold text that would take like just maybe a space of 3 more characters, and then the text would overflow the field. So that's one of the reasons we don't allow any special formatting like bold. The species name is in italic by default. So the system provides that the species name is printed out in italic.
But that's only in the species name.
Yes.
Of the tested species, not if it's in a text for other seed determination.
Yes, and I would also recommend, if you try to use line breaks, that you really make a short test on a provisional signed one to see if it still looks okay, because we cannot like provide that any kind of line breaks or characters wouldn't exceed the fields. We have a limitations, and we also have a recommendation for limitation for how many characters. But if you use line breaks, that wouldn't count as characters, so that might be that your text is overlapping the field. So please, if you're signing or want to sign a certificate in an original one, check on the provisional signed status first. So you really have the PDF to have a look at it if everything is fine. And once you're sure that looks fine, it's okay, you can sign it as an original one, as a final one.
Okay, then where do I get the interface description? I think that is from you, Barbara, right? But via Stella.
Yes, any interested lab can contact Stella, and we can provide just a channel PDF about the informations, but not the individual ones. The API key for each lab will be sent by my side directly, just for security reasons.
I just wanted to mention, we forget about to say there are certain costs related to that, to setting up the API from your side. There is a special quote which we will share with the membership. Do you have any idea in the moment on that? I think you calculated some figures for that as well to prepare the API per lab.
Yes, we have a. Oh, you're surprising me a little bit with that question. I have to look.
We go up with the next one.
We made an estimation, and also within that quote, there's a certain amount of support hours provided. So it usually, using an API, it doesn't just work with the very first shot. That's usual. So we have a kind of a certain amount of limited amount of support hours, and just hand over to Andreas and looking for the quote with it.
Will there be a written manual available, step by step? The clear answer is yes.
Well, step by step, probably not, because the problem is we don't know your IT surrounding or your IT system. So that's really quite individual how you build or how you address from your side the API. There's just a detailed technical documentation available regarding the URL of the endpoints, the whole scheme of the API, how that is built up, and what kind of values are allowed and not allowed. You just maybe can share the document after that. But we cannot tell you how you have to build or address the API from your side, because that is really dependent on your IT solution you have. And each lab usually has a different system. There's not like an overall standard.
Okay, let's go to the next one. That's what we answered. In year 6, we have eCert, regarding eCert, we have auto web application which have entered the data to application, and after completion the certificate printed. My question is that whether we link our application to the certificate application through software. Another question is it possible image signature on this e-certificate? That question is a clear yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, maybe just pop in here, because before you can use the API, there has to be some basic setup for each lab made by ISTA. So you will provide Stella or Neelam with your signature code, with the stamp of your lab, and just with your basic informations, like email, do I want to receive the e-certificates via PDF or as a zip file? That has to be set up by ISTA before you can use the API itself.
Now I need to go for the next one. Where do I get the interface description? And we answered that one. We have another one here. Can the PDF grow to multiple pages if you put additional text in some of the free text fields? It sounds like it is fixed. It's very fixed this year. Yes. It's fixed.
Yes. Yes, because the e-certificate, the PDF, looks right the same as a paper certificate. So the fields are not flexible or self-adjusting their size. That's one for the reasons why we wouldn't allow like individual text formatting or like choosing font sizes or anything like that. It's really the written, the signed certificate is a PDF, but if you print it out, it looks right the same as a paper certificate.
Okay, I'm just looking. I think that's all the questions we have in the moment. There's another one just came in. Is there an API programmatically retrieving existing PDFs? Do the two existing endpoints respond with a URL to download, or is there only the only option for it to be emailed?
Now there are two options. One is the email solution as PDF or zip, or still in your eCertificates cockpit on the web page of ISTA, where you have where each lab has a whole account. You can download them in the cockpit by searching for test number, or just selecting certain states. You can download a single certificate in the cockpit, or you can download anything you have checked.
Okay. Sorry, that was going into the wrong field. While I'm writing, you can send more questions if you like. I think we answered all of them in the moment. I do not see any open questions here. How many signatures on eCertificates? On each eCertificate, there's only one signature, but you can have more than one signature tokens. So if you can use then, or the person whose signature is there can use his own token, but there can be more than one person signing eCertificates. And then the signature will appear. It should not be more than signing in the moment. So that is maybe an important point, as you will have to tell during the audit probably, if you have 40 people signing eCertificates, why is that more than your paper certificates? And to be summing it up again, the eCertificate is an option. You don't have to use it. You still can use paper certificates. You may also use both in parallel where required. And maybe another interesting question which always comes up is, can I have a duplicate? You can have a paper duplicate for an eCertificate original, yes, but there's no possibility of having a duplicate in the eCertificate system. So if you issued an orange international paper original, there's no possibility to have that transferred into an eCertificate later on. Maybe we can also say again what we need from everybody who wants to take part in the testing or in the original afterwards. We need to have, and you correct me if I say everything, we need to have the email address where the certificate should be sent to. We would advise you to have a central email address for that probably, because if it goes into your normal email address, it may get lost somewhere due to the amount of emails you receive every day. And also you have an overview which only concerns the eCertificates, but that's up to your decision. The second one is we need a transparent PNG file of your lab stamp and a transparent PNG file of the signature files, and these should include the name and the position of the job, so general manager or QA manager or whatever is your job position. What you put on your current paper certificates should appear together with the signature here. Those are the requirements we need. And that is all we would require from you. You can send all these to audit@ista.ch. I don't see any further questions. In that case,
maybe I just can
yeah, Barbara.
Yeah, the question about the cost. I just found our estimation, our quote. So that would be 2,200 francs for setting up the test and the live system, including a maximum amount of 8 hours support. If you need more support for any reason, we would charge 1 hour per 2,200 francs. What we still have to discuss between ISTA and MySign about who is charging the amount. Is that via ISTA or is that via MySign directly?
Yes.
And that's not including any cost from ISTA side. It's just the quote from our side, from the MySign side, for setting up a lab on the test and the live system and providing a certain amount of support. But we have to still talk about who is sending the invoice. Is that ISTA or is that MySign directly?
I don't see any other questions. Now, I thank you for your participation in this webinar. As mentioned, it will be available later on the ISTA YouTube channel, where you may subscribe. And there's another webinar at 5 o'clock for all those who are in a different time zone. This webinar will be also posted on the YouTube channel later. Stella, you would like to add something here, or?
Not so many, just again to, as you told a little bit earlier, I asked some laboratory to send to me updated signature, please, to provide me updated signature, including title, who signed the certificate, who is responsible for a signature, including in the signature, please. And I asked some of laboratories. And as well, I asked some laboratories to provide me email address where it will be sent signed PDFs. This is what I wanted to add to your, and thank you.
Okay, no, again, there's again coming up the question, how many signatures are available? You can have as many as you like, probably those who sign paper certificates in the moment. It must also be fixed in your SOPs who is allowed to sign, or somewhere in your procedures who is allowed to sign these paper certificates, and it should be the same people. Thank you very much, and to Stella and Barbara, we see you in the afternoon again. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.